If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
I'm Clyde Lewis. And this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. We were discussing during the break, Ron and I, about how today was the day that Zelensky met FAFO. F-A-F-O. We all know what that is. And again, if it's theater, it's good theater. Just like this whole Epstein thing. I mean, here we are, over a month of Trump being in office. And in that time, he said he was going to do this, and this. He signed a bunch of executive orders, and we couldn't keep up with those. And then he said he's going to set up a task force to release secret files on a series of topics. And then, of course, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, the civil rights leader Martin Luther King, RFK, and the shady business practices of none other than Jeffrey Epstein. But the Epstein files, well, jokes on Trump, jokes on us, they're a bust. It's a nothing burger. And even most supporters of Trump see this as an embarrassment, a cover-up of a cover-up. What's going on here? I mean, isn't every conspiracy theorist dream of full disclosure coming true? Someone doesn't want full disclosure to happen. This move, like many others, is sure to have raised some eyebrows, yes. In fact, a lot of very powerful individuals might be losing night's sleep over this. And they should, for obvious reasons. And in trying to understand Trump's strategic goals or his rationale, believe me, I know there are groups out there that are fighting to avoid exposure of wrongdoing and wastefulness. They certainly don't want to be seen on that Epstein file list or the next files that Trump wishes to reveal. Many experts, after scratching their heads to make sense of this whole administration, have concluded that Trump is such a force of chaos that his mind is just above or beneath comprehension. It's all crazy, they say. Crazy. To sum it up, Trump's moves are better understood as part of a power grab or a war declared on sectors of the deep state. I think their statements to obtain leverage by intimidation. I mean, who's going to argue with someone who's crazy? I mean, Nixon did this, right? But now I worry that there are those weighted with vengeance that are in the wings ready to pounce. And people have already wondered, why hasn't it happened yet? Well, I think it is happening. There's a movement called the hashtag OutGov. It's apparently rebelling against Trump and Musk. They're doing it from the inside. We're literally watching a well-tuned conspiracy and a well-tuned cover-up to cover up a conspiracy, or vice versa. And prior to this year, Democrats had been in control of the White House for 12 of the past 16 years. Over time, the left that were hired for key positions just kept hiring more left people underneath them. In fact, it's getting to a point where DEI policies and various agencies essentially institutionalize the systematic hiring of left-wing thinkers and influencers. By the end of the Biden administration, the left dominated, or the left's domination of most of our federal agencies was virtually complete. But now we have a new administration that most of our leftist federal workers absolutely hate. Many of them have absolutely no intention of cooperating with the new administration, and some of them have started to openly rebel against it. Little acts of sabotage are the plan. And over time, these acts will become greater, which will determine, well, it'll actually be detrimental to progress. So this hashtag OutGov movement has developed a visible public-facing presence in recent weeks through blue sky accounts, most of which bear the names of initials of federal agencies, aimed at getting in about the chaos being unleashed by the Trump administration. So they, too, have decided to jump on the alternative bandwagon. 40 accounts to date. They have this collective megaphone. It's getting louder as most of the accounts have tens of thousands of followers without CDC, they, them. They are the largest at nearly 95,000 followers. The network has also formed a group and a series of subgroups on Wire. They're using this. It's encrypted messaging to share information, develop strategies. And most people don't realize this, but the OutGov movement was very active during the Trump administration, just basically doing things subtle. It's not like Antifa or any other group. See, that's the thing, is when you think about these undermining agencies, groups, and those who wish to, hold the deep state in high regard and be damned, they're going to go after Trump and make him look bad. We're looking at insubordination. We're looking at a silent coup. We're looking at, things that are being promised that could very well be sabotaged, just like this Epstein stuff. I mean, who wants to find someone on the list? Who wants to find Trump on the list? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow find a way to do that. It's FAFO, man. It's all about FAFO. You guys screw up, this is what you get. You're going to watch it all. It's going to be like Entertainment Tonight, every night, every day. Like I was saying, we have an accomplished comedian from Ukraine fighting with a reality TV star in the White House, and it makes you wonder just how much of this is theater and how much of this is reality. And I'm not saying it's not reality. I'm just saying that it's entertaining to see, and the reason why it's entertaining to see is because most people who listen to shows like mine and listen to what are called quote unquote conspiracy theorists, they already know what's going on. They've already read what has happened. They already know the names of people that are on the list of Epstein. They already know that, we've been jokingly saying that Epstein didn't kill himself. There's just a bunch of things that the American people want to know, and they're not going to find out because this is nothing more than a blow up. This is a farce. This is a fraud, a hoax. It was a bust, a nothing burger, they say. And so I just think that we need to be aware that these things are happening, that these things are underway, and that, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to get into the mainstream that they're going to believe and they're going to report as fact. More so than they did during the administration, where they were talking about Russian collusion and other things. Because, the media loves to spin conspiracy theories, and they love to trample over the ones that they don't endorse. 503-225-0860. That's 503-225-0860. We have Ed Opperman coming up to talk about this on Ground Zero. So get your questions ready. 503-225-0860. We'll be back. Ed Opperman is the president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting and the host of the Opperman Report, a radio talk show. Opperman did the first radio report on Epstein in 2013. He was the first to publish a 24-page letter from Epstein's attorney, Jerry Lefcourt, which claimed Epstein helped the Clintons on the Global Clinton Initiative. Later in 2015, Opperman was hired as a private investigator in the Katie Johnson, Jane Doe lawsuit against Trump and Epstein. Later, Ed was hired to work some Epstein litigation in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Besides Epstein, more recently, Opperman has been involved in cases around the Hunter Biden laptop, Stormy Daniels case, and everything that basically resulted in Trump's 34 felonies. Ed Opperman, welcome to Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde, how have you been?
Been okay. I hear you're a little under a weather.
Yeah, I am. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure you're okay.
Got one foot in the grave, bro.
We all seem to feel like right now.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this thing happened. This whole Epstein file nonsense happened. This is definitely something that it seems a lot more I guess, sinister and kind of fake sort of. It just makes everybody feel like that something is up. It's a cover-up of a cover-up. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, boy, it's a good question. It seems like they were unprepared for this. At least Bondi was unprepared for what she was going to receive, because she did write that cover letter accusing Patel of holding things back, right? So there's that, but then again, according to her, she's had this material for quite a while. And then the way they launched it, like you were complaining about in your notes there, about how they launched it with these podcasters and these paid influencers. Very disturbing, the whole thing.
Why do you think they used influencers and podcasters instead of going down channels? Because again, that's like saying, okay, it's like reporting the second coming is happening with Jesus and hiring a what do you call those telephone solicitors to tell everybody about it? Wouldn't that be like a pain in the butt? Just like, hey, I'm getting one of those prank telephone spam calls telling me that Jesus has returned. I mean, this is exactly how I feel about this type of stuff.
Clyde, I got to tell you, like I said in the intro I sent you over there, I started working on this in 2013. We did the first radio show about Jeffrey Epstein. And I just see so much garbage out there. The story is just so twisted and controlled in so many ways. I've kind of given up that there's even any hope of getting any truth and reality. First of all, this whole idea of a list. There's no evidence whatsoever of Jeffrey Epstein ever getting paid for providing a child to someone else for sex, for getting paid as a client. Yes, he probably did provide children to other men, and that is sex trafficking. But there is no client list, and where would that client list be in this kind of investigation? You got 301, 302's FBI interview forms, but where would this list be? There's not going to be a list of clients anywhere. It's just not going to exist. And by the way, get this: I got a friend who has Jeffrey Epstein's phone records. Okay, how come nobody wants that list?
Well, here's the thing too. What about the Black Book? They were saying everybody's all excited about the Black Book. Plenty of conspiracy theories going around, naming people, saying these people were in his Black Book, therefore ipso facto pedophile. I would say this: if any, I would in fact I would venture a guess that anybody that Epstein wanted to get to know or even call would be in that book, not necessarily people who have shown up at his doorstep wanting children to have sex with.
Well, the theory with that, there's two Black Books, okay? But the theory with that, and two address books, let's call them. But the theory about that is the ones that were circled were the ones that were massage-related and were more inclined to be involved in these kind of activities.
Right. So that circled names. See, that's the thing, though. These court of public opinion journalists, though, are going to find their political enemies and say, he's on the list, he's on the list, she's on the list, they're on the list. I mean, but see, with work like you've done and others, we seem to know everything there is to know already, and there's no real reason to be doing this.
Well, now, yeah, they have the unredacted address books. They're out there. You can find them. They're even searchable. You can find, they have searchable databases with those names on them. But then there's also completely bogus lists with Tom Hanks' name on it and crazy stuff like that. Just made up lists. This whole idea of a list, man, really pisses me off to begin with. There's no such thing as a list. But if there was a list, you know what I would want to see a list of, Clyde Lewis? A list of the people working at the Royal Palms High School back in 2004. Because if you read the 2006 grand jury transcripts, it was just recently unsealed, about a year ago. And if you read that, the detective in charge of that case says there was no one at that school that was unaware of what was going on. These kids, you can read from their own lips, these poor kids, man, talking about, okay, I'm going to go meet this millionaire. I'm going to get paid $300. If I bring another kid, I'll get $100 for bringing another kid over. And they're talking about, okay, I'm going to get a ride for my cousin at the trailer park. The kid at the trailer park says, watch out for that old man. Everyone in that town knew what was going on with this stuff. And then if you read that 2006 grand jury transcript again, too, the prosecutor is smearing these victims and trying to throw the case. And if it wasn't for some kindly grand jurors who took over the questioning and even gave these young women advice and counsel saying, hey, don't you want to get ahead of this because in the future you might be traumatized by this? Wouldn't you like to move ahead with this case? Otherwise, the prosecutor would have threw that case.
We have looked at this type of stuff in the past. Why do you think really no one steps up and said, well, take a look at this. Here's something to look at. Why is it that we have to build up all this, hype for something that was a bait and switch?
I think the opposition has a lot of money and power, and they throw up a lot of distractions and a lot of disinformation, especially around this case.
Do you think a lot of this, I guess you could say, cover up of a cover up?
Yeah.
Do you think this was done to embarrass Trump?
No.
No?
No. I think this was unplanned. Okay.
All right.
And when you hear this stuff about they're talking about that rumor about SDNY is holding back information. Okay. I don't have any firsthand information on that. It could be true. And what I sent you in that email that Rudy Giuliani worked for Tower Financial,
yes.
Which was that company run by Stephen Hoffenberg. I interviewed Hoffenberg like a dozen times. Mm-hmm. And Hoffenberg brought in Epstein to work for him at the Tower Financial. It was a Ponzi scheme. They stole $400 million. And
right.
Rudy Giuliani was being paid $1 million a year to run interference with SDNY. Let's say what obviously was going on there. There would be no other reason to pay a lawyer $1 million a year unless he had some kind of juice like that. So Rudy could still have that juice in SDNY right now, too. It's possible, too, as well.
So, you're looking at what Rudy, siding with Epstein. Yeah. Again, is this guilty by association? I mean, he was, here he was, dealing with that kind of, again, more money changing hands for something that, that hides behind philanthropy. I mean, you look at the Clintons as well and what they were involved with, working with Epstein and what he gave them as well.
Yeah, that's a legitimate question, okay? Am I just smearing Rudy by saying guilt by association? But first of all, you can Google all day long. You're not going to find that he was being paid $1 million a year. I got that from the guy that was signing the checks. You could only hear it by listening to my show. You can only find that information. But the thing is, what happened was, see, when the heat started coming down on Tower Financial, Darren Endyke and Richard Kahn and Jeffrey Epstein all got off scot-free. Okay, they all got off scot-free. Well, Hoffenberg is holding the bag doing prison for 20 years. And by the way, Hoffenberg he ran a PAC for Trump. So it's not all black and white, and my own, it's not all black and white. You got to take politics totally out of this stuff.
I know. You have to take politics out of it and start talking about criminal behavior. That's Ed Opperman with us tonight on Ground Zero. Numbers to call 503-225-0860. It's 503-225-0860. Have any questions for Ed? He's the guy, man. He knows this stuff in and out. So check it out. 503-225-0860. We'll be back.
That dial. We'll be right back.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. Ed Opperman with us tonight. He's the man that knows all about the Epstein files. He's done investigative reporting for some time now and giving us the lowdown. Ed, I kick back and I say to myself, what is it that the American people want to know? What is it they want to know they haven't already heard? I mean, we're not going to hear any revelations about what happened to him when he died. I don't think we're hearing any word. Like you said, there's no list of people. There's no list of clients. I mean, what do you think the American people were expecting, and why is it they see it as a bust?
Oh, they expect a list. There's a list. Okay. It was such and such a name. He paid $25 on such and such a date. That's what they think. But by the way, there's a lot of stuff, if they were to release everything hidden about investigative work on Epstein, that would prohibit cases against other people in the future. It would damage information. But there is some other stuff out there, just like a year ago, 2 years ago, Sarah Ransom and Maria Farmer filed a complaint against the FBI. See, because back in the 90s, they went to NYPD and they went to FBI. They both made reports about Epstein. He could have been stopped back then. Now, recently, they filed a claim against the FBI for many millions of dollars. You don't hear about that case at all. No one's talking about that, but there's a lot of information in that. You can find it on my Patreon for free, the Opperman Report Patreon. And that 24-page letter, too, about the Clintons, that's up on the Patreon, too, for free.
Mm-hmm. The Clintons have always been, I remember doing an investigation a while back about the Chinese triad, the fact that they were child trafficking through Thailand, Southeast Asia. The Clintons were getting money for their campaigns through the Chinese triad. Now we hear that they were that Epstein had a part in their Clinton, what do they call that he was involved with?
I used to call it the Clinton Foundation, but it's the Clinton Global Initiative is what it's actually called.
Yeah, and he was involved with that. And it just makes me wonder just how much of the Clinton philosophy dealt with the rape and bloodletting of children and how, if it were reported, how much of a scam. Again, if these things are reported, what are the American people going to do about it? What are they expecting the American people to do if we found out that the Clintons were hell, Bill Gates has been in the spotlight for going to the ranch, and no one said anything about him. They still think that he's a savior for vaccines.
Well, like you said, we can't tar everybody with the same brush, and just because they were connected to Epstein doesn't mean they were having sex with Epstein.
Right.
And a lot of this stuff, like I said, it's like the operation that we know about was getting 3 little girls a day from the Royal Palms High School and then the trailer parks around that neighborhood. None of them were getting on planes. None of them were going on islands. Okay, not one of them. They were traveling like 20 minutes away to Epstein's house. Three a day. We know about that for a fact. Now, by the way, too, Pam Bondi. She was the Attorney General of Florida right after that when Acosta was the Attorney General and dropped these charges and made this deal with Epstein. She had to be a deputy of his somewhere along the line under him. And then she takes over in 2011. Epstein doesn't have a worry in the world from 2011 on until he finally gets arrested out of New York. So there's that. Then there's Kash Patel. You see him, man, he's posing with Steve Bannon and Bernie Kerik, right? And Steve Bannon, I got a show you can look it up called Opperman Report, Steve Bannon Porn and Meth House, okay? Steve Bannon had a house in Florida where they were the tenant that took over the place after Steve Bannon left found residue of meth lab in there, okay? Mm-hmm. And they also had padlocks on the inside of the doors and windows to keep people locked inside. When he was interviewed by the cops down in Florida, he says at the end of the interview, he leaves this little clue, and he says, "And I hope this leads to the investigations in Palm Beach." Okay, Bannon was friends with Epstein way back to Wall Street years and years and years ago. Okay, mm-hmm. And Bannon also too endorsed my lawsuit against Epstein, the Jane Doe lawsuit too, when that Roy Moore thing was going on. Mm-hmm. He said a quote in the press saying, "Well, what about your father and that 13-year-old?" That's the case we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. So the Kash Patel, he's hanging around with who? With Steve Bannon, this guy who's just as shady as Epstein. He's also hanging out with Bernie Kerik, right, who was the January 6th war room guy. He paid $50,000 for the war room. Kerik is a convicted felon to begin with, right? But he had a friend. You might know this story. Larry Ray. Mm-hmm. The Sarah Lawrence pimp.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to him for about 2.5 hours on the phone. Larry Ray. And I got his number from A.J. Weberman, the yippie garbologist. That guy gave it to him. Yeah. Okay, so what? So Larry Ray, man, was best friends and the best man at Bernie Kerik's wedding. And on that day, when you see Bernie Kerik on 9/11 telling Rudy Giuliani, "No, let's not go to Building 7, let's go this other direction," Larry Ray was his best friend, and Larry Ray was pimping out his girlfriend for $8,000 a day. Okay. Now, who's the other one? Who's the deputy FBI director right now? Dan Bongino.
Oh yeah, Bongino. Well, he's the second, right?
Yeah, he's deputy. He's the second right under Kash Patel.
Yeah, it was just the other day that. Yeah, okay, that's why I was drawing a blank, was because it was just the other day they announced that.
I know everything's happening so fast, you can't keep up.
I know
with
that's the thing, is that it's happening too fast, and that's why I used to be really good at this. Now I have to revamp my style, and I don't know, I can't keep up with you. You've been a professional for too long. I'm just saying, I got to ramp up my style.
No, I'm off my game tonight. Okay, I apologize.
We're all off our game. It's the Trump administration. Yeah. What do you expect?
But Dan Bongino, man, he's photographed next to that woman Cindy Yang, who owned that massage parlor where the football guy who owned the football team, the Patriots, New England Patriots, that he got arrested at that massage parlor in Palm Beach.
Okay.
Bongino is posing in a picture with the woman who owned that massage parlor.
Seriously?
Yes. And there's serious trafficking went on at that place, too, because the way it came to the police attention was the women were living in there, okay, in the strip mall massage parlor where they worked, and they were cooking on barbecues outside in the alley behind the place.
Wow. We're going to come.
Some serious trafficking.
Ed, we're going to be right back. Okay, got more to come. Ed Opperman, tonight on Ground Zero. It's like we got this inside information that nobody else has. 503-225-0860. It's 503-225-0860. Back over Ground Zero. Don't go away. Tonight on Ground Zero. Hey, Ed, can you tell us where we can listen to your podcast? Because I know that a lot of people love you and they want to know where you are and what you're doing.
I guess the best place is Spreaker.com, but you can find it. It's on all the podcast catchers. If you just put up OppermanReport.com or Opperman Report, it comes right up.
So, okay, do you think, like I do, that most of what we're hearing about, whether it be the list or something else, all went into the shredder even before they brought out those binders and say, look what we have, and it was absolutely nothing?
Well, I can tell you this. Way back with the Mueller investigation and the SDNY investigation into the whole Stormy Daniels deal with Michael Cohen, the FBI and SDNY weren't even asking about Epstein, okay? And let me tell you, man, a lot of people involved in those deals, man, knew all about Epstein because they were involved in Epstein cases.
Right.
So I think before they even get to the shredder, I think there was a lot of non-investigations even before the shredder. We know Acosta was in the bag with Epstein down in Florida. You got that sweetheart deal that went on for so long. They first did the trash pulls in 2004. They got the first victim in 2004. They didn't get a grand jury indictment until 2006. He didn't do a day in jail till 2008. Okay, 4 years, man, of just dancing between the raindrops.
Who do you think, now I'm putting on my conspiracy hat here.
Yeah.
I think I know who did in Epstein. Who do you think did it?
I don't know.
I think the Royals did it, actually. I mean, I'm the Royals. I think the Royals had something to do with it. I think they, what is it, MI6?
Yeah.
I think they had something to do with it. I think under the supervision of the Mossad, we had a group of individuals wanting to take him out because of what he knew. He was an asset for blackmail. And, of course, Prince Andrew certainly had a lot to confess, along with Jimmy Savile and others. And I think that they would lead right to Epstein. And I think it's not America-centric that he wanted to die. People say the Clintons did it or others did it. I have a feeling the Royals did it.
I'm not convinced he ever died. I think he could have been walked out of there. The people involved have that kind of juice.
Uh-huh.
The way Hoffenberg met Epstein was through Patrick Leese, who was MI6 and an arms dealer character. And Epstein was involved, too. If you listen to Ari Ben-Menashe, he was also involved with Khashoggi and Iran Contra, all kinds of stuff. Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, was definitely Mossad. So I think it was a common, and Epstein had a building that was owned by the State Department, the U.S. State Department. So there's definitely intelligence elements there, enough to say that, hey, if they want to walk this guy out, they could definitely pull it off.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that's another thing, too.
Yeah.
It's like he didn't die. Maybe that it was just a big lie and he's off somewhere,
But you know about the other cellmate that's dead, right?
No.
Yeah. Everyone talks about the cellmate, and they talk about that big musclehead cop who killed all those people. But his last real cellmate was this other guy, Rodriguez, something like that. And but he had to go to court that day, so he wasn't staying there that day when Epstein died. And then Bill Barr interviewed him, and he came up with this story about how he was jonesing for heroin, and Epstein managed to smuggle some heroin into him. But he's dead now, too, that guy. He's dead. And his daughter stopped talking to the press.
Literally another dead end. We got to go to some calls right now. Let's go to Moscow. Bob calling in from Russia. Hey, Bob, you're on Ground Zero.
Hey, good morning. My curious question is this the old Sun Tzu, old Chinese warrior philosopher, keep your enemies as close as possible to you? Is what's going on? Because all these people you've talked about, Patel, Bongino, all these other guys have had access to Epstein and know stuff about the case. And why was the island never secluded, never investigated? Why did they allow it to be just totally dismantled without an FBI investigation, without the government, the United States State Department going to them and say, hey, this is a crime scene, we want this secure?
No, the FBI searched the island.
Okay, what'd you say, Ed?
The FBI searched the island.
The FBI searched the island?
Oh, yeah.
That's what he's... Okay. So the FBI did search the island,
Okay.
Bob. Yeah, they did.
Did they actually take files, or did they just basically get rid of what they needed to because the powers above them told them we don't want any information coming out?
Well, we know there's other stuff. We know there's other stuff from the mansion, from that search warrant execution there. By the way, back to Royal Palms High School. Did you know that Jeffrey Epstein had the school transcripts of those little girls in his house there in Palm Beach?
No.
Yeah, I know. Nobody talks about this stuff. The real stuff nobody talks about. So they got stuff from there. They were tipped off to that search, by the way, too. They cleaned out a bunch of cameras and stuff. But they were tipped off to that search. They did search the island. They recovered stuff there. And in his place in Manhattan, they actually saw it open a safe. There's things in there, too. But there's video of Endyke and Khan leaving his mansion with boxes full of stuff. Okay, there's video of this. And those were the two partners at Tower Financial. They were partners with the Epstein, Endyke, and Khan. Okay, and Rudy was the lawyer. Then they go down, they set up the Southern Trust down in Virgin Islands, right? Then after Epstein dies, these two guys, Endyke and Khan, they set up a trust called the Butterfly Trust, and they steal $10 million.
Jeez.
They steal $10 million, not a single consequence.
That's insane. And just yeah.
If it was your mother's estate and you stole 10,000, I sold 10,000 or 1,000, you'd go to prison. $10 million, man.
It's 1 day in prison. Seth in Florida, you're on with Ed Opperman. Go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to say, great guest, by the way. I imagine, in terms of the idea of a list or something, that would be pretty stupid to write down. And two, I think it kind of covers, it's not one side or the other. I think it's just dealing with a lot of powerful people. And I think if they would all get hit. And just wanted to add something when you talked about let's say the possible political theater today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to tell you titles, but I've been on a few reality shows.
Okay.
And it struck me very close to home. And I wouldn't actually gauge the president or Zelensky as being in on it. But J.D. Vance definitely, it reminded me of when we would be on a show and everyone was getting along. You would see a producer go into a room, and then next thing you know, someone would come out and start some sort of drama. And that J.D. Vance, it seemed straight up like that today for me.
Well, it did look like that to me, too. I mean, we're talking about the meeting today with Zelensky and Trump and Vance and how it all came out looking like some reality TV show. Did you see that, Ed?
Yeah, I've done some reality TV too, and I know what you're talking about. Okay, I was on Dr. Drew Life Changes.
Like that.
But the one thing that would sway me away from that is Trump kept calling it raw earth materials, raw earth instead of rare earth. I don't think he was doing that on purpose.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for the call. And Ed, always a pleasure having you on this program.
Clyde, thank you so much, man.
Oh, you got it, man. And again, just look up Ed Opperman, Spreaker, elsewhere. Always good to talk with you. Ed, get better.
Thank you, man.
Talk to you again soon. You take care of yourself. And if something breaks, please get a hold of Ron and let's talk about it, okay?
You got it. No problem.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, guys, we got another hour.